China military got devastated. Let's learn how.
Without even a shot being fired. The Chinese Communist Party is trying to cover up this embarrassment, but the US and its allies can't be complacent.
Can't be.
Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. Since starting this show 12 years ago, I've traveled to dangerous, disputed waters in the South China Sea.
Does it sound dangerous? It's on a small boat like a lake. This doesn't really sound dangerous.
Brought anti-CCP leaders to Washington,
Leaders, who are those guys, man?
D.C., been tear-gassed alongside millions of Hong Kong protesters. And now I want to do even more. This show has been on YouTube and Patreon for a long time, but these platforms are changing for the worse.
For the worst.
More and more, they're censoring people like me who tell the kind of truth the CCP doesn't want you to hear.
So you are telling me that Chinese Communist Party is working with YouTube to censor you, but somehow you have 2 million subscribers? Wow, you should. That's crazy, man.
That's why we're building a new China Uncensored premium subscription website.
Oh, thank you.
It'll be the Disneyland. Help us build the new censorship-free China Uncensored Disneyland.
Of course, because he needs more money, right?
And now, on with today's episode. With a whopping 370 vessels, the People's Liberation Army Navy is the largest in the world, larger than the U.S. Navy, which boasts only 296 vessels. It's also growing at a breakneck speed, with the United States Department of Defense estimating China's Navy will reach 395 ships by 2025 and 435 ships by 2030. It's a force to be reckoned with, but it does have one problem. Not very modern. Take submarines, for example. According to the DoD, the PLAN currently operates 60 of them as compared to the US, which has 71. The PLAN submarine force is expected to grow to 65 units by next year and 80 units by 2035.
But somehow one submarine sunk, supposedly, and this devastated China's military.
But 48 of the PLAN's current submarines are diesel-powered, which limits the range and how long they can stay submerged.
Yeah.
Enter Xi Jinping's military modernization program. According to the Chinese Communist Party's trumpeter, the Global Times, Xi stressed military modernization at the 20th CPC National Congress back in 2022, and they've been at it ever since, building newer, fancier, higher-tech submarines, especially nuclear-powered ones. But the PLAN has just hit a little bit of a snag, because according to U.S. officials, earlier this year, China's newest nuclear submarine sank, setting back its military modernization. Wow. And now we're finally hearing about it. The first indication that something was strange came in July, when defense analyst Thomas Schugart noticed some unusual activity on the Yangtze River near Wuhan. All the best things happen in Wuhan. Now, most of China's nuclear-powered submarines are made in the northeastern...
Wuhan actually is a very nice city. I was there back in August. Just crazy hot.
...city of Huludao. But it's looking to diversify production, so it's moving a lot of that manufacturing process to the Wuchang shipyard near Wuhan. Sugar was keeping an eye on publicly available commercial satellite imagery and discovered a number of floating cranes gathered at a pier at that shipyard. Clearly, something had sunk into the river and needed to be retrieved.
Of course.
But
clearly.
Clearly.
That was the what happened with the speed here?
It was a sub, and satellite images from May definitely show something there. That might be a submarine?
So they have two photos, and that might be a submarine, might be.
But now a U.S. official has confirmed that, yes, it was indeed a submarine, and not only that, it was the PLAN's newest nuclear submarine.
So United States officials confirm, because they would never lie to us. United States military would never lie to us, right? And they confirmed the model of the submarine, the class of the submarine, based on these two photos. They're amazing.
I guess someone should have told the engineer of the sub that, yes, it's supposed to be submersible, but it's also supposed to come back up. According to the Wall Street Journal, which broke the story, the vessel that sank is the first of a new class of Chinese nuclear-powered subs and features a distinctive X-shaped stern, which is designed to make the vessel more maneuverable. It was built by China State Shipbuilding Corporation, a state-owned company, and was reportedly undergoing its final equipping before going out to sea when it sank. The anonymous U.S. official who reported the sunken...
Of course it's anonymous. Of course there's no name. It's always like that. There's so many news about China. There's no name, anonymously was leaked, and that's it. You don't have the United States media like this guy. They don't need anyone. They don't need any source. You just say, "Oh no, we heard from this guy on the military who said that," and that's it. Everybody believes.
Said there were no known casualties, and it's unclear if the submarine had any nuclear material on board at the time, though some analysts suspect it probably did.
So, might be a submarine, but somehow they identified the submarine and they identified the class of the submarine, and might be nuclear, and might have nuclear power, whatever, inside and sunk with it. Even though he said the shipyards that are building submarines are in the north of China, not up in the middle, down the river. As far as we know, here in China, there's no shipyards in Wuhan building any submarine.
Because leave it to China to make a dumb situation dangerously dumb. Shugart, who is a former U.S. submarine officer, said that the risk of a nuclear leak was likely to be low as the sub hadn't ventured out to sea and its reactors were probably not operating at a high power.
Likely, probably, might be. That's the thing about making bad news about China. Doesn't matter. Just say whatever, put a lot of likelies, probablys, might be's, and it's okay.
Which would be reassuring if China didn't already have a history of letting dangerous stuff leak out of Wuhan and wreak havoc. Of course, the Chinese Communist Party scrambled to cover up the mess.
United States doesn't have a history of doing tests with disease in humans, right? Like they did in Alabama with syphilis, like they did in Costa Rica with pregnant women, like they did in many other countries in the world. But it's okay. Probably it's for the democracy.
Which is why we're only hearing about it just now. And they still ain't saying nothing. Recently, when questioned at a Beijing news conference about the sinking, a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson claimed that he was not familiar with the topic and did not provide any additional details, which means he's either a liar or an idiot. That's not accurate. He could also be a lying idiot.
This lying idiot described well this video because, again, it's 2 photos, no sources. Oh, it's just a guy, an analyst on the military who said that there might be. And that's it. You don't need much more than that to create lies about China.
But apparently Shugart is not familiar with how the CCP operates because he said in an interview, can you imagine a U.S. nuclear submarine sinking in San Diego and the government hushes it up and doesn't tell anybody about it? I mean, holy cow. Holy cow, indeed. It's a great comparison because Wuhan is in the middle of the country. San Diego is on the coast. This is a pretty... Also, the United States bombed, invaded the Philippines, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Guam, and it's okay. Did anyone say anything against the United States invading those places? So a submarine sinking is nothing for what the United States is still doing in the country. The United States has literally hundreds of military bases around China. Hundreds. Big setback. Everything within the submarine is almost certain to be waterlogged, and it could take several months before the submarine becomes operational again. And it does raise certain questions. The senior U.S. officials said that in addition to the obvious questions about training standards and equipment quality, the incident raises deeper questions about the PLA's internal accountability and oversight of China's defense industry. You see how many news they created about 2 photos? It's insane, right? I found it amazing how creative they are. Industry, which has long been plagued by corruption. You mean a totalitarian world power would have military shortcomings because of corruption? Imagine that. Yeah, of course. The Pentagon, the Department of Defense in the United States is the biggest budget for the United States, almost $900 billion. And the Pentagon cannot pass any third-part audit.
The Pentagon cannot account where the things they buy are. They have no idea. It's over 60% of everything the Pentagon buys is lost because of corruption. United States sent weapons to Ukraine. Ukraine sold them, and they found those weapons in Central America. So the Pentagon is corrupted as hell. They have no idea where the money is going through because it doesn't matter. It's just to keep moving the huge industrial weapons complex.
But remember, this is just a setback. China will continue to
Of
develop
course.
its nuclear submarine fleet. It won't stop. The People's Liberation Army has faced setbacks before, yet none of that has stopped them from behaving violently towards the Philippines, joining Russia with naval drills near Alaska and Japan.
So United States can do exercise here in the South China Sea every week, basically. Germany was here, Canada was here, British was here. This is fine. It's totally fine. But United States, China decided to do an exercise together with Russia in the international waters close to Japan and Alaska. Ooh, that's the end of the world. Run to the hills. You see how this makes no sense? United States now has an air carrier craft in the Middle East to protect Israel, right? Because Israel has the right to defend itself. The United States is supplying weapons to Israel to attack Lebanon, to attack West Bank, to attack whatever they want to attack. But this is totally fine. But China cannot do a military exercise on international waters.
Intruding in Japanese waters and planning to invade Taiwan. Meanwhile, the White House
You cannot invade what is yours.
seems committed to hosting round after round of talks with the CCP, even as the US military is struggling to meet recruitment targets. China is watching very closely how the US responds to other wars throughout the globe. In fact, it's also supporting both Russia and Iran financially and diplomatically, and even with weapons. Though they deny it, because what would a brutal totalitarian regime have in common with two other brutal totalitarian regimes?
Well, and you get back to the United States supporting Saddam Hussein back in the day, supporting Osama bin Laden back in the day, supporting Iran regime. That was the first coup done by the CIA in the 50s. And there's a huge list that we can go. Supporting Nazis after the end of the war, supporting the Nazis from Japan, the fascists from Japan after the end of the war. And we can keep going, like, really. It makes no sense. I found it amazing that everything they accuse China to do, United States does thousands of times worse for decades, and is totally fine because United States, and someone has to keep the world running, right?
We did a video covering that. I'll put a link to it below. But the CCP is trying to spread the US thin, support its enemies, and pretend that it's interested in diplomacy to keep Washington complacent. And incidents like this submarine sinking might encourage such complacency. Instead, the US needs to up its game, particularly while the CCP is in such domestic trouble. Before you go,
Which domestic trouble? Let's just say a lot of whatever things here, and that I think is enough for today. Thank you for watching. If you like it, leave a like, leave a comment, and let's keep debunking all this bullshit about China.